Okay, so here we go again. Welcome back. Greek letters. And now we are in part 4, the weird-looking ones. And the last ones, actually. So we are finishing with the letters now. If you have watched this episode, you know all the letters. We still have one, which is combinations of letters that have a particular pronunciation that you need to know. But the letters themselves, we are finishing with them now. So here are the last letters we have not talked about. And these are easy because they're familiar sounds in English. They're sounds that you know how to pronounce, and they just look different from what you'd expect. So if you just get used to how they look, you will be fine. There's nothing difficult to pronounce here like it was in the last episode where we had the weird sounds, right? So the first one is the delta. The delta is one letter that does what in English you do with TH, this and that. This and that is exactly the sound that the delta is making. The next one is the theta, and you have to distinguish it. In English you don't, right? You have TH again, but it's a different sound because the delta is voiced, is the, and the theta is unvoiced. It's thought. When you say thought, thinking, these are not voiced. So the delta is this and that, and the theta is thought and thinking. Then we have the P, which in mathematics, in English you pronounce it pi wrongly. It's actually called P, and the P is exactly the sound of play and Paul, so it's a P sound. The next one is the sigma, and this contains a gamma, the letter name itself, sigma, and the gamma we talked about last time, so perhaps if you want, you can go back to learn how to pronounce it. So it's not a sigma. If you want to say it in Greek, it's called sigma. Okay, and the sigma is special, and we will see it in a moment, because it has actually 3 forms. But here are the 2 that all the other letters also have, which is the capital and the small one, and the sound of it is just an S. Sleep sound, that's the sigma. The next one is also a very familiar sound. It's the F, phi. And the F is exactly the same like in English, fine, frame. The F sound is the letter phi, which looks, my wife always says, it looks like a fish ball on a stick. And a fish ball begins with a phi. And so this is how you can try to remember it. Perhaps it helps you. The fish ball on a stick is a phi. And finally, we have the omega, which is the last letter of the alphabet. And this is just an O like the other O. So along, or any O sound, above, along, these are O. And it is the same like the other O. There is no difference at all. Again, it works like with the many E's we talked about previously. In ancient Greek, you had a difference between the big O, which is this one, and the small O, which is the other one, the round one. You see here just like O on the right side. And they were different. And one is called omega, which literally means the big O, and the other is called an omicron, which means the small O. But the difference between them has disappeared over the centuries, and so now they are both exactly the same O. They are just traditionally used in different words, and we keep writing these words in the same way like they did in ancient Greek. So we still have these 2 O's, but they are both now pronounced exactly the same. And the most common use for the omega is perhaps useful to know how to expect to see it. The most common use is at the end of verbs in the first person singular. When you say, I do something, I can, I want, I walk, I eat, most of these end on this omega letter, on the O sound. So it is tro, pigeno, θέλω, έχω. These are all first person singular verbs, and they all have the omega as the last letter. So this is very common when you read written Greek because verbs are very common. Now we come to the sigma. The sigma has a third form. It's nothing difficult, nothing scary. It's just something to remember. You have the capital S, which you see here in the first line. In the middle, you have the small s when it's not at the word's end. And then we have a special S when it is at the end of a word. When it is at the end of a word, small, a small letter, not a capital, then you write it like this, which resembles, in handwriting, you would just writing like an English S, small s. And this is this very simple rule. Always when a small s is the last letter in a word, then you write it in this way. It's still pronounced totally the same like a normal s, but it is written differently at the end of the word. So when you have a word that's all written in capital letters, for example, a sign somewhere, a street sign or a shop sign, and it's all capital letters, then at the end, you don't do this because this is a small letter. So then you would use the capital S also at the end of the word. So this is only used when you have a small letter S at the end of a word. Okay. So here are some examples of that, right? So first is the name of Socrates, right? In Greek, Socrates, and you see you have both S's. You have at the beginning of the word the capital S because it's a name, and you have at the end of the word the final S, right? It's called the final S, this S. And then you have the normal small s when it's not at the end of a word. So the words like cigar, which means not loud, softly speaking, soft sound, or it also means slowly. And then you have sosta, which means correct, contains two s. And then we have the final S in the name Andreas, for example, which is my name. The last letter is a final S. Ipsos means height, lathos means mistake or error, and these all end on an S, and therefore we use the final S. And now we want to practice what we learned, so listen, and I will leave a break between the words. I will leave a pause, and you repeat in this pause, okay? So let's begin. Delta. Δίνω. Θάλασσα. Θέλω. Πάρε. Πίνω. Πες. Ίσια. Φωλιά. Okay, I hope you could say all these with the new letters you learned. The verb forms are sometimes a little strange for the English speaker. For example, pino, it says I drink. Θέλω, I want. We will talk about this later, but in Greek you don't have this infinitive form of the verb like in English where you say to want, to drink. All the verbs exist only in a form that already has person in it. So it's first person, second person, and so on. So there is no way to say drink independently of a person. So you always have to say I drink, I want, and so on. So let's go on now. Again, it's your turn. Read these words aloud first, and then I will tell you how to do it. So after every word, you read it first, and then I will tell you how to pronounce it, and you can compare. Try. Dendro. Dendro. Dendro is a tree. Let's do the next one. Δολοφόνος. Δολοφόνος means the murderer. Now make sure that you put the tones correctly in these words with many syllables. It's not δολοφόνος, it's not δολοφόνος, it is δολοφόνος. And you see the tone, right? Make sure you put the stress, the emphasis where the tone mark is. The next one. Θα ήθελα. Θα ήθελα means I would want. I would like to ask you for something that I want. Θα ήθελα. Next one. Πόνος. Πόνος means pain. This is where the word pain comes from. Next one. Ποτήρι. Ποτήρι means glass. Drinking glass, not glasses. Next one. Σπίτι. Σπίτι means house. Next one. Πώς. Πώς means how. And it is yellow because we will see in a moment something strange is happening here, because I told you that you put a tone mark only when you have multiple vowels and there can be a confusion about where to put it. This has only one vowel, it's only one syllable, and it still has a tone mark. And this is a special rule which we will talk about in a moment after we finish the next word. Try to pronounce the next one. Φωτιά. Φωτιά. And the last one. Έφαγα. Έφαγα. Φωτιά means fire, έφαγα means I have eaten. Okay, so now what's happening there with this yellow highlighted word, the pause, that does have a tone, although it should not. And there is this rule when to put these tone marks. Words with one syllable normally don't get a tone. But if there are two words that are written the same and one is a question word or an emphasized word, then the question word or the emphasized word does get a tone. And we do it similarly in English. We have unstressed versions of words, and then we have the same word in a stressed version. For example, that. He told me that he was away. There's no tone. This is not stressed. He told me that he was away. But then the next one, is it that one you were talking about? Now this is emphasized. That one. Now you are pointing, right? It's a totally different meaning of that. It's the same word, it's the same letters, but it has different meanings. He told me that he was away. Doesn't point at anything, right? It just tells you what he told me. While it is that one you were talking about. This is pointing at an object, right? And so this gets a tone because it's emphasized. And you can do it with many words. He told me how he went hiking, the how, which is now not a question word. It is describing how he went hiking, but I can also use it as a question. How did you go hiking? And then the how is emphasized and stressed. It's a question word now. And this is exactly the same what happens in Greek. So here's another example in Greek. Μου είπε πως θα φύγει. He told me that he would leave. Μου είπε πως θα φύγει. He told me that he would leave. Or μου είπε πώς θα φύγει. He told me how he would leave. Right? It's exactly the same pause. It's exactly the same sentence, right? You see, but the one is not emphasized. So it just means that, unemphasized, he told me that he would leave. Or he told me how he would leave. Μου είπε πώς θα φύγει. And in the second case, this how is emphasized. It's the whole point of this sentence, right? It's a stressed word. And therefore, it does have a tone. So don't worry too much about it. Again, this is not necessarily going to kill your Greek if you don't do this correctly. But it is something to, I wanted to say it so that you already know what's happening and you don't worry when you see it later. You don't think that there's a mistake. It is correct that sometimes these things are stressed, sometimes they are not. Okay, so here is what we learned this time, and now we are almost finished. We learned the following letters: delta, like in this and that; theta, like in thought; P, like in play and Paul; sigma like in sleep and sound, phi like in fine and frame, and o, omega, like in along, above. The o sound, that is the same like the normal small o. And that's all for today. We are finished with the Greek alphabet. If you have any questions, go back, listen again to the 4 past episodes. And next time, we have one more about combinations of letters, and then we are finished with the alphabet, and you can go and read everything that comes in front of you. See you next time, and bye-bye.